Howdy! We are a group of entomology students researching a new emerging vector-borne disease with the CDC. We have compiled all of our data into this presentation, and today we will be informing the public about controlling the spread of Golden State Gangrenosum. Our chief investigators include Oge Nwegbu, Jake Kindle, Idaiti Flores, Elizabeth Seaver, Derek Hall, Awa Khan, and Harshal Patel. So to get us started, I will be discussing a brief overview of this vector-borne disease. The disease is a bacterial infection caused by the pathogen Bacillus marunae, which causes Pyoderma gangrenosum, aka Golden State Gangrenosum. This pathogen is transmitted by the tick Ornithodorus coriaceus. The pathogen is effectively reservoired by canids. A specific species of canids will be discussed later on in the presentation. Lastly, humans are the primary hosts of the disease. The pathogen Bacillus marunae is a rod-shaped bacterium. It is gram-positive, it forms endospores, has a genome of about 5 megabases, and has been found out to cause Pyoderma gangrenosum. We are calling the disease Golden State Gangrenosum because it has infected a large population in California. We believe it to be a type of Pyoderma gangrenosum. Pyoderma gangrenosum is a rare inflammatory skin condition whose exact causes are unknown. It is believed to be an autoimmune disorder which can lead to death or permanent loss of mobility. Bacterial gangrenosum symptoms include fever, headache, small red bumps, sores, ulcers, cerebral dysfunction including confusion, delirium, and declining consciousness, coma, bradycardia, palsies, prominent rash localized to extremities, lethargy, malaise, and digestive distress. Who tends to get it? Adults with certain risk factors are more susceptible. You're at a higher risk if you abuse alcohol, have chronic nose and ear infections, sustain a head injury, or get pneumococcal pneumonia. Dog ownership can increase chance of infection. Additional risk factors include areas around Mount Shasta, California are at high risk. Age. People of any age can develop Pyoderma gangrenosum, but most often it affects people between the ages of 20 to 50. Golden State Gangrenosum affects women slightly more than men. Group setting includes infectious diseases tend to spread where large groups of people gather. Certain medical conditions can also increase your risk. Some of these include inflammatory bowel disease, arthritis, and blood disorders. Working with pathogens, microbiologists routinely exposed to bacteria are at increased risk. And lastly, travel. Travelers may be at increased risk for the disease if they travel to certain places.
The vector for Golden State Gangrenosum is the Ornithodorus coriaceus. It is a soft tick belonging to the Argicidae family. It is commonly known as the pajarero tick. The name pajarero stems from the Spanish word paja, which means straw due to the appearance of its legs, and huerillo, which means footprint, derived from the shape of its body. These ticks are mostly found in trees and dry, brushy areas, and around rock outcroppings, which are areas of attraction for potential hosts. This is believed to be the reason that the primary host organism for this vector are mammals, such as cattle, deer, dogs, and in some cases, humans. The life cycle of this tick consists of 4 major stages: the egg, larva, nymph, and adult. In order to grow, the tick must have an intake of a large blood meal before each transition from one stage to another, or before reproduction. Feeding for these ticks begin with the larval stage, which lasts the longest of all the life stages. It has 7 nymphal instars. These nymphs typically don't eat during the first instar, but they do for every instar molt following. The one thing that varies is the amount and length of the time they feed, lasting longer and with more volume as they grow. For males of the species, their feeding stage typically lasts from 6 weeks to 17 months, while the females is widely more varied, lasting from 26 days to over 3 years. The Ornithodorus coriaceus has been reported to inhabit mountainous regions of California, with some sources claiming that the tick populates a much larger portion of the southwestern region of the U.S. and Mexico. The tick is most prevalent in the dry and hot mountainous areas of Santa Barbara, Ventura, and Los Angeles counties, and can be found anywhere around sea level up to 7,500 feet in elevation. In fact, the tick has been found in as many as 58 counties within California itself, not including its presence in Mexico. The tick seems to be attracted to deer beds among low shrub oaks and favoring hosts like mule deer and cattle, or candids that just so happen to be traveling through the area. The reservoir for the Golden State Gangrenosum are candids, or commonly known as dogs, which carry the disease vector long enough to bite and infect a human or another mammal. And since these include all canines, wild and domestic, they can be found in almost any habitat within North America, making the range of how far they can spread this disease effectively unlimited. People's connections with their domesticated dogs is what increases their chance of getting bit by a tick and contracting this disease, especially since all species of candids are easily parasitized by the Ornithodoros coryceus.
The patients who fell victim to Pyoderma gangrenosum are Billy Preston, Caroline Carmen, Christopher Vance, Gregory Orr, Helen Vance, Stephen Merritt, Evelyn Orr, Ashley Sloan, Barbara Dalton, and Justin Winters. All of the patients vary in age, sex, height, and weight. Although there are some variations in their symptoms as well, there are common symptoms that either all or most of the patients share. These symptoms are migraine, headache, fever, dehydration, presence of pustules and ulcers, lymphocytes, and plasma cells found around vessels. The movement of the disease was tracked by analyzing patient travels and histories. Our team has come to the conclusion that Justin Winters was patient zero and that Thailand was ground zero. We believe that the disease was introduced into the U.S. by Justin Winters and his dog, either by directly being infected with the disease and spreading it to local vectors, or acting as a vehicle for the infected ticks to travel. Justin Winters returned from Thailand and then visited Lompoc, California, where he brought his dog to an event where he crossed paths with Barbara Dalton. She then went with him to 3C's dog grooming because he needed to take care of his dog's infestation. After the event, she noticed that she had been bitten by a tick and then fell ill. Caroline Carmen works at this business and could have come in contact with the vector because she treated Justin's dog. This location was also frequented by the Orrs, who took their dogs there to be groomed. Ashley Sloan was on a road trip where she stopped in Santa Barbara and could have come in contact with the vector by crossing paths with the Orrs as they traveled around local churches. She also visited Mount Shasta, where Justin Winters lives, and Billy Preston, Christopher Vance, Helen Vance, Evelyn Orr, and Gregory Orr visited. Billy Preston went on his annual camping trip to Mount Shasta at the Trout Creek campground. He could have crossed paths with Evelyn and Gregory Orr, and the infected vector could have bit him. The Vances also visited Mount Shasta at Lake Siskiyou because other patients have also visited Mount Shasta. This area has been flagged as a highly infectious site. The Orrs traveled around churches in the Lompoc and Santa Barbara area where they could have allowed the vector to come in contact with Ashley Sloan and Barbara Dalton. They then traveled to Mount Shasta at the Trout Creek campground. Stephen Merritt worked frequently outside and reported being bitten by ticks and mosquitoes. He didn't directly cross any of the patient's paths, indicating that the vector is capable of traveling distances to find susceptible hosts. The areas with the highest overlap are most likely the sites of infection. This would include 3C's dog grooming, Mount Shasta at the Trout Creek camp, and Lake Siskiyou.
We as an investigation team found 4 linkages to prevent the outbreak of the Golden State Gangrenosum. The linkages are pathogen to host, vector to host, reservoir to host / pathogen to reservoir, and vector to reservoir. To break the linkage between pathogen to host, we implemented a human vaccine which allows the body to produce the necessary antibodies to fight off the disease. This vaccine caused an uproar from the general public due to flu-like symptoms, migraines, muscle pain, arthritis, and many more. The CDC had received no reports of side effects from doctors, hospitals, or other healthcare professionals. Due to this uproar, the investigation team had to create secondary measures to fight off the disease. In breaking the vector to host linkage, we developed a secondary precaution to help reduce the amount of tick bites. Repellent maruni is a non-toxic, hypoallergenic spray that discourages the tick from contacting the human skin. The spray will last about 8 hours before you should reapply more. In order to make this repellent accessible to the public, it will be passed around at campsites and local stores to help raise awareness. In order to break the linkage from reservoir to host / pathogen to reservoir, a canine vaccine was developed. This vaccine will activate the dog's immune system to attack and destroy Bacillus maruni. It has also been established that covering about 70% of dogs in the area has significantly lower infection rates.
Additional methods of disease transmission control that should be used along with the vaccine include advertisement of tick collars, flea and tick pills, preventative shampoo and conditioner, and topical treatments. These secondary measures will help protect dogs from the pathogen and vector. These measures will help prevent the tick from transmitting the bacteria Bacillus maruni to the dogs who reservoir the disease. The tick collar kills ticks on contact, so it works pre-bite, but is only 95% effective. The flea and tick pill works post-bite and is 100% effective. These treatments reduce the risk of contact between ticks and humans. Lastly, tick removal shampoo and conditioner and topical treatments can be used to wash dogs to remove any other possible ticks. These preventative treatments can be suggested at veterinary clinics when the dogs are receiving their vaccines, and dog owners will be informed of their benefits. They will also be told these additional forms of treatment should be coupled with the vaccine for optimum coverage. These methods of control will be advertised to dog owners online, in brochures, and at veterinary clinics. Our team has sent representatives to talk to veterinaries in the major counties that are affected, as well as major cities in the United States. All of these products will also be sold in stores. For both the human and dog vaccine, our team has done extensive research into perfecting them. They've undergone many stages of testing and have been approved with flying colors. We hope that after all this effort, the vaccines will be 100% effective. We predict the number of infected people will exponentially decrease with the vaccines in full effect. These secondary measures will also decrease the O. coriaceus populations and allow the public to be more aware of the risks. Over time, as more people institute the preventative measures, we hope to reduce the transmission of this disease and completely eradicate it from North America. Our first step in the plan was to release the human vaccine. After about a month, the response was collected and it seemed to have caused an uproar. Many anti-vaxxers were against the vaccine and many complained of the symptoms caused by the vaccine. No doctor has confirmed the vaccines cause any severe symptoms. Due to this uproar, the next step in our investigation was introducing our secondary measures. We expect that the human repellent will be approximately 95% more acceptable compared to the vaccine, for which doctors throughout the area are reporting an approximate acceptance rate of 20%. The investigators predict that O. coriaceus populations will decrease and the public will become more self-aware of the risks of ticks, tick bites, and associated diseases. The full control will be a process of 6 months or during high peaks of the tick population. At the end of the year, we will gather the data to see how effective the preventative methods were, and based on that, we will make changes to improve the control plan for the following year. The biggest problems that can arise in this plan is people not following through with the preventative measures and the pricing of both the vaccines and the repellent maruni. To overcome these problems, we can decrease the prices to make it accessible for everyone and put more notices around the area to make people aware of the risks. The best way to monitor the effectiveness of this plan as a whole is to record the number of people receiving the vaccine and monitor the number of newly infected patients, along with where they were infected and where they reside if possible. To keep track of all this information, we will create an online database that is accessible to the public, but only select personnel will have access for editing. This will ensure that all of the information is inputted and accurate. There will also be a position in the CDC appointed to monitoring this database to verify and confirm that the information is accurate. This will serve as the audit of the system, and if problems are identified, they can be addressed without causing any panic to the public. Furthermore, this position will be in charge of sending out public service announcements if there is a spike in the amount of people infected so that the people living in the infected areas are aware of the status of the disease. The complication of all of this information will allow for the actual geographic range and severity of the outbreak to be properly measured, so that further actions can be planned and implemented if necessary. Further actions include deploying larger teams to the areas of outbreak and administering vaccines and the secondary measures. Thank you for listening to our presentation today, and if you have any questions, feel free to check out our website for more information.